Hello and welcome to this special episode of Raksha Sutra, a podcast by Directorate of Public Relations, Ministry of Defence, and I am your Sutradhar, Shelda. As India gears up for Ran Sambad 2025, a unique tri-service dialogue, we dive into some of the most pressing questions shaping India's defence future. From Operation Sindoor, that demonstrated India's defence might, to the announcement of Mission Sudarshan Chakra, our very own Iron Dome style system, and the nation's ambitious vision of Atmanirbharta by 2047. Today's discussion takes us to the heart of India's evolving defence landscape. Joining us for this insightful conversation is Major General Dr. Ashok Kumar, Sir, retired, Director General of the Centre for Joint Warfare Studies. Today, Sir is going to help us decode how India is preparing for future multi-domain challenges, integrating new generation technologies, and building a world-class defence ecosystem. Stay with us as we explore the road ahead for India's self-reliance, exports, innovation, and information dominance in the defence sector. Welcome, sir. We are delighted to have you today with us.
Thank you very much. मेरे लिए भी ये सौभाग्य का विषय है.
Sir, let us begin with Ran Samwad, a 2-day event dedicated entirely to war, warfare and warfighting, which will be held on 26th and 27th of August 2025. This tri-service dialogue has provided an excellent platform to bring together military leaders, technologists, industry experts and academia to discuss the infusion of new generation technologies and their impact on India's defence preparedness. Looking ahead, as we approach India's centenary of independence in 2047, where do you envisage India's Atmanirbharta in the field of indigenous defence production? Specifically, how do you see India's defence industry evolving in terms of self-reliance in critical technologies, export potential, global partnerships, and building a world-class ecosystem capable of supporting the armed forces in facing future multi-domain challenges?
You have asked a very, very important question, which is very relevant in today's time. When we are inching towards the achieving of developed India's aim of 2047, if you monitor the world stage, you will find that there have been some famous dialogues which are very commonly known to most of us, but they have been focusing on geopolitical issues, geoeconomic issues, some energy issues and some of the security issues. But our Chief of Defence Staff, General Anil Chauhan, for the first time has conceived a dialogue which is focused exclusively on war, warfare and warfighting, which we are now starting, this year being the first edition, known as Ran Sambad. We hope that within 3 years' time, this dialogue will be one of the best in the world. That is the aim at which we are looking at. This initiative is frankly a reflection of our collective will to harness the power of technology, innovation and collaboration for India's defence preparedness, which was also demonstrated aptly well during Operation Sindoor. It is through such platforms that we are able to anticipate the challenges of the future and align our policies with the fast changing character of warfare. Though this dialogue was conceived prior to Operation Sindoor, but since it is being conducted in post-op Sindoor time frame, it will have a number of lessons and deliberations which will make the defence forces future ready. Coming to our looking ahead to 2047, the centenary of our independence, our vision for Atmanirbharta in defence is very, very clear and ambitious. By then, we envisage India as a fully self-reliant nation in critical defence technologies, capable of designing, developing and producing state-of-the-art systems across all domains, land, sea, air and the newly added ones, cyber and space. Our armed forces will not only be equipped with indigenous fighter aircraft, submarines, tanks, missiles and drones, but also with cutting-edge solutions in artificial intelligence, quantum communication, robotics, directed energy weapons and network-centric warfare systems, some of which were demonstrated during Operation Sindoor. Frankly speaking, Atmanirbharta is not only just about self-sufficiency, it is also about becoming a global contributor, and India has made ambitious plans for that. By 2047, we aspire for our country to be among the top exporters of the world, with Indian platforms operating across continents. Our defense industry will be integrated with global supply chains, and Indian startups, MSMEs, and private companies will be innovation leaders in these sectors. Because only then we will be able to achieve the national aim, wherein by 2029 we intend to achieve defense export close to 50,000 crore. We are already putting in place strong foundations through initiatives like the Region Portal, Positive Indigenization Lists, IDEX, and Samarthya programs, which you would be aware about. We are also in the process of establishing defense production corridors in Uttar Pradesh and Tamil Nadu, which are giving a lot of traction. A lot of industries have already established themselves in these corridors, and I am sure given the advantage it is offering, government may consider launching such more corridors in future. Operation Sindoor has demonstrated that indigenous technology is not just a policy goal, but it is a battlefield reality. In fact, a close watch on Operation Sindoor will dictate that it is the indigenous technology which saved the day for us, wherein we were able to impact Pakistan in a decisive manner. The commissioning of indigenous stealth frigates, the deployment of AI-powered systems like Akash Tir, and the advances in loitering munitions and missile defense all showcase the power of our domestic capabilities. Missile defense has also become very, very important, and I am sure you would have heard our Prime Minister speaking from the ramparts of Red Fort on 15th August, wherein he announced the operationalization of Sudarshan Chakra, which is going to be multiple notches better than Iron Dome system of Israel, and it is going to be totally indigenous. So, looking at 2047, again, our goal is very, very simple. We want to ensure that every soldier, sailor, and air warrior of India fights with equipment that is world class, reliable, and largely made in India. This is not just about our military strength, but about strategic autonomy. Because once we have our defense forces fighting with our indigenous equipment, then only we can exercise autonomy. In case we are dependent on the defense imports, then our choices become limited. In short, the journey from Atmanirbharta to becoming a global defense hub is already underway, and as I already told you, by 2047, which is a golden line, we are confident that India will stand tall as both as a security provider in the region as well as a technology leader for the world.
Right, sir. And during Operation Sindoor, India's defensive might was demonstrated to not only Pakistan but also to the whole world. This is likely to boost India's defense exports further. Is the Indian defense industry geared up to meet future challenges in this domain? And what additional support is the government planning to provide our defense industry?
And the very, very important question brought out by you. In fact, Operation Sindoor was a watershed moment for India. It was not only a military success, but also it showcased India's indigenous technological prowess. The precision, speed, and effectiveness with which our armed forces neutralize threats using homegrown systems has already sent a clear message both to our adversaries and to the global community that India today is capable of fighting and winning with its own technology. In fact, two things happened simultaneously. On one hand, we saw the futility of Chinese weapon systems which could not perform. At the same time, the kind of precision and activity which we demonstrated, especially on the morning of 10th of May, the whole world has taken a note. Number of countries have already approached for the our Indian defense equipment, and there are a lot of them who are coming and approaching defense industries of the country, both at the government level as well as at the private level. And unlike other countries, we are a reliable source of affordable cutting-edge systems, from missile and air defense platforms to drones, artillery, and naval assets. In fact, our products are now reaching to more than 100 countries at this point of time. And there was a time that we were exporting only to few countries, and that to very, very simplistic items. But now we are exporting the BrahMos missiles, the gun systems, the rocket systems, Pinaka systems, and other major war fighting system to the world countries. In fact, our defense exports have grown nearly 30 times over the past decade, and then our target is to achieve 50,000 crore in exports by 2029, which I mentioned earlier. To the question about our industry being geared up for the future, there is natural doubt in people's mind that once we are not able to meet our own requirement, how the industry is going to meet the requirement of defense exports. The situation is not so. I can respond to this question in the affirmative, but with the recognition that the journey must continue because a lot of effort has still to go ahead to achieve this aim. Our public sector enterprises, private industries, startups, MSMEs are today working hand in hand with the armed forces. Even the armed forces are coming forward to support their industry, which was not ever seen earlier. Systems like Akash Tir, Joravar light tanks, Project 17A frigates and loitering munitions are evidence of these progresses made. At the same time, the government is fully committed to supporting this momentum. We are simplifying procurement processes. The defense acquisition procedure of 2020 is already under advanced revision, and I am sure before this year ends, it should come in form of DAP 2025, wherein a lot of procedural delays will get addressed. And not only that, we are coming up with the provisions wherein our global partners and our friendly foreign countries will be able to get the equipment with quality standards which meet the international benchmarks. Most importantly, we are investing heavily in R&D because the wars of the future will be won not just by weapons but by ideas and innovation. And ideas and innovation can only fructify once we have our indigenous weapon systems, because only with that we can have our own doctrines and policies. Else we have to fight with the borrowed equipment, borrowed thought process and borrowed doctrines, which is not good for any country. In short, Operation Sindoor was not just a demonstration of India's capability but also a launchpad for India's defense industry to emerge as a global leader. With government support, industry confidence and the backing of our scientific community, I am very confident that India will not only be self-reliant for its defense forces, but it will be a net security provider to the world, and a different India will emerge in the scene, more so by the time we reach our centenary celebrations.
Sir, how did indigenous logistics systems, surveillance and network-centric operations contribute to the success of Operation Sindoor? What lessons has the government drawn from the operation for future conflicts, specifically concerning jointness and technology-driven warfare?
While the institution of Chief of Defence Staff and Department of Military Affairs came up with the purpose of creating theatre commands, which is possible only through jointness and integration, and currently the second CDS is holding that chair. But a lot has moved in that particular direction, and I can tell you from my personal experience that had we not achieved the kind of jointness and integration which we have achieved now, probably our success in Operation Sindoor would have been a different story. We could do this in a very, very short span of time, wherein what we did was something unheard and unknown in the entire world. This operation has not only demonstrated that indigenous logistics systems, surveillance assets and network-centric operations can decidedly shape outcomes in modern warfare, but it also demonstrated how by jointness we can have the geometric outputs as against arithmetic integration of outputs. Our indigenous logistics platforms ensure timely delivery of fuel, ammunition and space even in forward areas, thereby providing that for our combat forces to fight decisive battles without the need to look back. Our logistics elements had to play an extremely important role. An effective intelligence, surveillance and reconnaissance grid was established with a layered system of radars, satellites, drones and electronic intelligence, giving commanders real-time situational awareness. If you would have seen the satellite images when on early morning of 7th May we struck the terrorist targets in Bahawalpur and Muridke, it was only the terrorist hideouts which were struck, but the civilian areas were totally left out. That was possible because of the kind of precision we achieved and the kind of intelligence we have had. Most importantly, Our network-centric systems such as the AI-enabled Akash allowed seamless integration of sensors and shooters across the three services, Army, Navy and Air Force, which ensured faster decision making and precision targeting. This was the backbone of the high accuracy with which terror infrastructure was neutralized. In fact, the integrated air defense wall which was created on the Western Front was able to successfully negate the swarm drones combined strike using the Pakistani drones, the Chinese drones and the Turkey drones from the areas of Jammu and Kashmir down to Kutch, and they could not destroy any of our assets. The key lessons what we have drawn are threefold. First, jointness is not negotiable. The integration of Army, Navy and Air Force assets in a single operational picture was a game changer. Second, technology is a force multiplier. Indigenous systems developed through years of investment gave us both confidence and operational flexibility. And third, logistics and resilience are as important as the firepower. Ensuring secure supply chains and redundancy in critical systems will remain a top priority for future conflicts as well. As we go forward, these lessons are being institutionalized through reforms in theatre commands, accelerated investment in indigenous technology, and adoption of our training curriculum to fully exploit the power of technology-driven warfare. Operation Sindoor was therefore not just a successful mission, it was a glimpse of the future battlefield where India is determined to lead with self-reliance, innovation and joint strength. In fact, if you would have gone through the themes of Ran Sambad, it is focusing on two main themes wherein it is looking at as to how technology can shape the future battle fighting, and secondly having realized that how we can train our people, all ranks of Army, Navy and Air Force, to hone the requisite skills to adopt those technologically advanced weapon systems for the war fighting.
So, we have seen how battles of narratives are shaping the outcomes of recent conflicts, where information warfare has emerged as an important domain. What initiatives are being taken to strengthen India's information dominance?
You are absolutely right. If you see, while we have fought a decisive battle and have given an unprecedented battlefield loss to Pakistan, but rather than accepting, they are trying for a bravado kind of image in front of their public, and all this is being done because of the use of information warfare tools, because they know and we also know that in today's world wars are no longer fought only on the battlefield but also in the information space. Narratives can shape public opinion, influence international perception and even impact battlefield outcomes. We have seen this in recent global conflicts where information warfare has been used as a tool of both deterrence and deception. And this is an area where we have to further work. India's information dominance is required to be further fine-tuned. We are undertaking several initiatives. First, we are enhancing our cyber and electronic warfare capabilities to protect our own networks and to counter hostile propaganda and disinformation. Second, we are building dedicated information warfare cells within the services to fuse intelligence, psychological operations and media outreach in a coordinated manner. Because of delay and timing involved, if you are not able to counter the adversary's information warfare campaign, then you become a loser. And therefore, in this battle, you have to be always ahead to remain proactive rather than reactive. And third, we are working with our scientific community and industry to harness AI tools for real-time monitoring of narratives, detection of deepfakes, and rapid counter messaging. Equally important is the role of strategic communication. We are strengthening partnerships with media, academia, and civil society so that they understand our perspective clearly and credibly, both at home and abroad. The Ran Sambad initiative and our regular engagement with think tanks are part of this effort. Finally, we are focusing on training our personnel in narrative warfare and information operations so that every commander is as prepared for the information battlefield as he is ready for the kinetic battlefield. In short, information dominance has become a core pillar of national security, and India is determined to ensure that our story is told truthfully, strongly, timely and on our own terms. The countries which do not harness this kind of capability, they may lose their impression in front of the world despite having a decisive win. And India has already moved much ahead in this particular direction.
Yes, sir. On 15th of August, the Prime Minister announced Mission Sudarshan Chakra, which is envisaged as the new Made in India Iron Dome style air defense system designed to both intercept and retaliate against aerial threats. How do you visualize the system being created, and what are the timelines by when it will be operationalized?
Frankly speaking, there is a lot of inquisitiveness on part of every Indian as to in what form Sudarshan Chakra is going to come, because this is something which is known to every Indian as to how Lord Krishna was using this for destruction of the adversaries. So the Prime Minister's announcement of Mission Sudarshan Chakra is a landmark step in our journey towards Atmanirbharta in defense. This system is being envisaged as a multi-layered indigenous air defense architecture comparable to Israel's Iron Dome. In fact, I will also say it will be comparable to USA's Golden Dome, but it will be tailored for India's unique strategic environment. Its design philosophy is not only to intercept incoming aerial threats such as missiles, drones and rockets, but also to retaliate effectively, thereby creating a credible and resilient shield. We visualize this system as an integration of several indigenous capabilities already maturing in India: the Akash and Akash NG surface-to-air missile systems, the Pralay tactical missiles, loitering munitions, AI-enabled control systems like Akash Tir, and a wide sensor network involving radars, satellites and unmanned platforms are going to be part of this. The aim is to create a network-centric system that provides real-time detection, interception and, if necessary, precision retaliation, so that the adversary's attempt to harm us is neutralized before it is matured even to a minor level. As far as timelines are concerned, work has already begun with involvement of the DRDO, our armed forces, our industry partners. We expect the first prototypes and trials of core components within the next 3 to 4 years. The initial operational capability of this system could be realized by the early 2030s, with full-scale deployment across critical sectors well before 2040. So by 2047, our target is to have a full operational and layered Sudarshan Chakra shield that ensures our skies remain secure against any aerial threat from any country, from any geography, from anywhere in the world.
Ji, sir, how successfully have the positive indigenization list and the Srijan portal been so far? And what is the roadmap for achieving the target of 3 lakh crore defense production and 50,000 crore exports by 2029?
We came out from the erstwhile era of reduced transparency. Today we are staying in a timeline where there is a full transparency. The positive indigenization list and the Srijan portal are manifestation of that transparency. They have been very successful in giving direction and momentum to our Atmanirbharta drive. Through 4 lists issued by the Department of Military Affairs and Ministry of Defense, more than 400 major weapons and platforms including artillery systems, UAVs, missiles, helicopters and naval systems have been earmarked for procurement only from the domestic industry. This has provided long-term visibility and assurance to our industry partners. On the other hand, the Srijan portal, launched as a digital bridge between the armed forces and industry, it has already listed over 14,000 items that were previously imported. One is happy to share that nearly 5,000 of these have already been indigenized by Indian companies, including MSMEs and startups. This is a concrete example of how policy intent is being translated into manufacturing reality. As far the roadmap is concerned, one is confident of achieving our target of rupees 3 lakh crore of defense production and 50,000 crore in defense exports by 2029. This will be achieved through 3 clear strategies. First, by deepening the private sector participation through initiatives like IDEX and defense corridors. Second, by accelerating R&D investment in next generation technologies such as AI, quantum, hypersonics and robotics. And third, by making Indian defense products globally competitive in terms of quality, cost and reliability. Our growing export orders for systems like BrahMos, artillery guns, radars and naval platforms show that vision is already becoming a reality and many more orders are in the pipeline. In short, the positive indigenization list and Srijan portal are not just policy tools, but they are force multipliers that are driving India towards self-reliance, job creation, and a robust defense industrial base.
Ji. Sir, given the rapid pace of defense industrialization, how is India balancing export ambitions with the armed forces' domestic requirements?
This is an important question because our foremost responsibility is always to equip the Indian armed forces first with the best possible systems. Export growth is important, but it cannot come at the cost of our own national security. That is why we follow a clear India first approach wherein the needs of the Army, Navy, and Air Force take absolute priority. At the same time, we recognize that a strong and sustainable defense industry requires both domestic orders and external markets. Exports give our companies economies of scale, make systems more cost effective, and ensure continuous innovation. In fact, many of the systems we are exporting, such as BrahMos, radars, artillery guns, and naval platforms, are the same systems being inducted into our own services. This parallel development benefits both sides. The armed forces get modern, indigenously produced equipment on time, and industry gets the confidence and scale to compete globally. The government ensures this balance through careful planning of production capacities, phased deliveries, and export clearance mechanisms. We are also building redundancies in our supply chains so that domestic requirements are never affected adversely by export commitments. In this way, India can meet its armed forces needs in full while simultaneously emerging as a trusted and responsible exporter to the world.
Ji. Sir, my next question is with India's growing defense exports, which we talked about. How does the ministry ensure that sensitive technologies do not compromise national security?
Well, this is another important question. India's defense exports are growing rapidly, but our national security will always remain non-negotiable. We have a strict export control regime under which every proposal is carefully weighted against national security interests, foreign policy, and international obligations. Sensitive technologies in areas like missile guidance, electronic warfare, and secure communications are never exported in their full operational configuration. In many cases, export variants are deliberately customized with scaled down capabilities, while core technologies remain safeguarded for our armed forces. We also insist end use monitoring and government to government oversight to ensure that equipment is used only for the intended purpose. In short, while India is emerging as a trusted defense exporter, we are equally determined to ensure that our technological edge and strategic capabilities remain fully secured.
Right, sir. And talking about the infusion of new generation technology into the armed forces, how are emerging technologies like artificial intelligence, robotics, quantum communication, hypersonics, and directed energy weapons being integrated into India's armed forces?
Frankly speaking, the character of warfare is changing very rapidly, and emerging technologies such as artificial intelligence, robotics, quantum communication, hypersonics, and directed energy weapons are at the heart of this transformation. India has recognized this shift and is taking decisive steps to integrate these technologies into our armed forces. Artificial intelligence is already being applied in areas such as predictive logistics, target recognition, surveillance analysis, and autonomous systems. Platforms like the AI-enabled Akash Air Defense Control System, which proved its worth during Operation Sindoor, are a good example. Robotics is being introduced in logistics, unmanned ground vehicles, and explosive ordnance disposal, reducing the risk to our soldiers in hazardous environments. India is investing in quantum communication and secure networks, DRDO, and academic institutions working together to create unbreakable communication links for our armed forces. Hypersonic technologies are under development, with successful demonstration of scramjet engines and ongoing programs for long-range hypersonic missiles. Directed energy weapons, including high-energy lasers, are in the advanced R&D stage with DRDO, and we expect prototype deployments in the coming years for counter unmanned aerial systems and air defense roles. Our approach is very clear. We want to shorten the cycle from research to battlefield deployment and want to ensure that by 2047, India's armed forces are equipped with indigenous and world-class systems in all these domains.
Ji. And also, sir, could you outline the role of programs like IDEX and Samarthya in accelerating the adoption of cutting-edge technology?
Definitely. These are the game changers. Programs like IDEX and Samarthya have become crucial pillars in accelerating the adoption of cutting-edge technologies for our armed forces. The Innovation for Defense Excellence, or IDEX, is essentially our bridge between the military's operational needs and the innovation ecosystem of startups, MSMEs, and academia. Through IDEX, more than 400 startups are already working on solutions ranging from swarm drones and counter unmanned aerial systems to AI-enabled surveillance, quantum communication, and advanced materials. The model of providing grants, mentorship, and access to defense test facilities has drastically reduced the time it takes to move an idea from the lab to the field. On the other hand, Samarthya is designed to support our defense PSUs, ordnance factories, and private industry in scaling up production and indigenization. It focuses on workforce skilling, supply chain strengthening, and the adoption of Industry 4.0 technologies in manufacturing. By combining innovation at IDEX and with industrial capacity under Samarthya, we are ensuring that our armed forces have access not just to prototypes but to reliable mass-produced systems that can be inducted quickly. Together, IDEX and Samarthya symbolize the two sides of our Atmanirbharta drive, innovation and execution. They are ensuring that India is not only keeping pace with global technology trends but is well positioned to lead in select fields by 2047.
Ji. Sir, how is India ensuring faster research and development cycles so that new generation technologies reach the forces before they become outdated?
Well, that is always a concern, especially the modern day technologies, because the rate at which they change is, phenomenal. It is unbelievable. Probably the people of your generation can understand it better. That before you can use all the features available in a gadget, I know that new gadget comes and the old one becomes obsolete. So in today's fast changing security environment, speed is as important as is the innovation. If technologies take too long to mature, they risk becoming obsolete, as I explained, before reaching the battlefield. That is why one of our key priorities has been to shorten R&D cycles and ensure that our soldiers get cutting edge systems in time. We are addressing this through a multi-pronged approach. First, by creating programs like IDEX and Defense India Startup Challenge, we are directly involving startups and MSMEs that can innovate quickly and deliver prototypes within months rather than years. Second, we are strengthening industry DRDO academia partnerships so that research moves seamlessly from lab to production. The success of systems like Akash and loitering munitions during Operation Sindoor is proof of that this model has worked and will work in future as well. Third, we have reformed our procurement and testing process to reduce red tape. Fast-track procedures, prototype trials, and parallel testing are allowing quicker decision making. At the same time, we are engaging budget allocation for defense R&D with a special focus on frontier technologies like AI, robotics, quantum, and directed energy weapons. Finally, through initiatives like Samarthya, we are enabling our defense industry to scale up quickly once a design is proven. In short, our goal is clear: to move from a slow sequential model of R&D to an agile, concurrent model that delivers battlefield-ready solutions to our armed forces before the technology curve shifts. By 2047, India's defense innovation ecosystem will not only keep pace with global trends, but will be shaping them as a lead country in the world.
Right, sir. Since we have covered many aspects so far, now it is time to talk about the human resources and how prepared our armed forces are for future challenges. Sir, how is the military training curriculum being adapted to incorporate technology-centric warfare such as swarm drones, cyber operations, and artificial intelligence-driven decision support systems?
Well, that is a major challenge for the planners because as the technology keeps shifting with such a drastic pace, so is the need of skilling the HR to handle equipments with such kind of technology. So warfare today is no longer frankly confined to land, sea and air. It is multi-domain, technology driven and evolving faster than ever before. Recognizing this, we have begun adopting our military training curriculum to prepare our soldiers, sailors and air warriors for the realities of technology-centric warfare. In fact, one of the major sessions, as I highlighted earlier during Ran Sambad, has been focused on this particular issue as to how we train our soldiers to fight with the newer technology. And necessary implementable plans will be worked out during the Ran Sambad. At our premier institutions such as National Defence Academy, College of Defence Management, the 3 service-specific war colleges, MCT, etc., new modules are being introduced on swarm drone operations, cyber defense, artificial intelligence, space warfare and electronic warfare. Practical training with unmanned aerial systems, counter-UAS systems, and network-centric battles management tools is already being imparted at regimental and command training centers. The recent success of indigenous systems like Akash Tir and Swarm drones during Operation Sindoor has further validated the need for hands-on exposure to these technologies. We are also strengthening joint training programs across the three services to build interoperability in cyber operations, AI-enabled decision support systems, and unmanned systems. Linkages and partnerships with institutions like IITs, IIITs, IIMs, DRDO labs, think tanks, etc. are being leveraged to ensure our officers and men are constantly exposed to cutting-edge research, simulation-based training, wargaming using AI, and cyber ranges are being expanded to ensure realism and preparation. In short, our training doctrine is moving beyond conventional skill sets to create technologically proficient warriors who can operate seamlessly in the digital and kinetic battlefields of the future. By 2047, every officer and soldier of the Indian Armed Forces will be as comfortable handling algorithms of the unmanned platforms as they are with rifles and artillery. The emphasis, the role of our training institutions are very, very important. I would like to highlight that the Army War College under the Army Training Command was specifically chosen to conduct Ran Sambad because it can lead the way for culling out the skill sets which are required for the soldiers to fight the battles of future with future technologies.
Ji. And so despite budgetary constraints, how are the three services prioritizing their procurement goals for capability development to meet future challenges?
Okay, that's very, very important issue which you have now raised. It is true that like every nation, especially the democracies, we operate within finite budgetary resources. However, our focus has been on ensuring that every rupee allocated to defense is spent wisely with clear prioritization by the three services to meet future challenges. First, we have emphasized jointness and optimization. The creation of integrated theatre commands and a greater push for common procurement ensures that there is no duplication of effort and resources. Shared platforms, sensors and logistics are also allowing us to do more with less. Second, each service has identified core capability priorities. For the Army, the focus is on modernizing artillery, light tanks for high-altitude warfare and enhancing counter-UAS capabilities. The Navy is prioritizing aircraft carriers, submarines and indigenous warship building under projects like 17A. While the Air Force is driving the indigenous fighter aircraft roadmap, air defense systems and force multipliers. Across all the three services, space, cyber and electronic warfare capabilities are common priorities. Third, the emphasis is on indigenization and cost-effective innovation. By relying more on indigenous platforms such as Akash Tir, ATACS, Dhanush, Joravar tanks, Project 17A frigates and indigenous drones, we are reducing import cost and creating scalable, affordable solutions. Initiatives like IDEX and SEGEN allow us to tap into startups and MSMEs which deliver technology at a fraction of global cost. Finally, we are reforming procurement through greater transparency, faster decision making and long-term visibility for industry. This ensures predictability in planning and maximizes returns on investment. So in short, despite budgetary constraints, our services are prioritizing procurement that enhances jointness, focuses on indigenous solutions and delivers maximum combat power per rupee. The proof of this approach was seen in Operation Sindoor, where indigenous and cost-effective technologies delivered decisive results which were never seen anywhere in the world before.
Thank you so much, sir, for talking to us.
Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak on various issues concerning the three defense forces, especially in the context of Operation Sindoor and Ran Sambad, for which we all are gravitating towards Army College Mau on 26th and 27th August 25 this year.
Friends, that brings us to the end of this special episode of Raksha Sutra. We had the privilege of hearing from Major General Dr. Ashok Kumar sir, who is Director General of Center for Joint Warfare Studies, and he explained on a range of critical issues. India's journey towards Atmanirbharta, lessons from Operation Sindoor, the promise of Mission Sudarshan Chakra, the role of innovations through IDEX and Samarthya initiatives, and the way our armed forces are adapting to future technology-driven warfare. As Ran Samwad 2025 approaches, these conversations remind us of the importance of foresight, innovation, and jointness in shaping India's defense preparedness for the decades to come. Thank you for joining us today. This is Raksha Sutra, bringing you stories, insights and voices from India's defense and strategic community. Up till next time, Dhanyavad, Jai Hind.